darle ese lugar a las personas detrás que literalmente le dan vida a los personajes, a las marionetas, a los puppets. Sé que nada más así viendo en el público y las caras de emoción, que hay muchos hardcore fans ya listos para esto. Así que, además de que podrán cachar algunas de sus actuaciones en live action en series de Netflix como Derry Girls. Y pues sin más, quiero presentarles y que Pixelatl y Guadalajara le dé una gran bienvenida a Beccy Henderson.
Hi. Oh, wow. Hi. Oh, there's so many of you. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you and so many of you here today. I'm really grateful to have been asked to speak. Thank you, Christian, at Pixelatl. Now, this is a lot for me. This is new. I don't talk. I puppeteer, but we'll get through it together. I can feel your support from the audience, and I hope that, thank you. And I hope that maybe you'll learn something new and enjoy diving into the world of live puppetry with me for a little bit. Okay. So my name is Beccy Henderson. I'm an actor, a puppeteer, a voiceover, and I'm also a songwriter. I like to tell stories, basically, through art. And today, I will be sharing a little bit about my journey into puppetry and how that led me to working on the Emmy Award-winning Netflix series, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Sharing a little bit about how we managed to shoot the show and the techniques used, and then finishing up with general puppetry tips, advice from me. Yeah. So to start, oh, and actually, if you're really interested in becoming a puppeteer, I think that will be really interesting. And if you see me around, feel free to come and ask me stuff. And if you're a creative looking to work with puppets, I think there will be information in there for you as well. But I'm from Northern Ireland, which is a very small country. We have a population of 1.8 million people. I Googled, and apparently Mexico has 130 million people. So 1.8 million, and no puppetry scene whatsoever. I've heard that Mexico has a really rich history with puppetry and practical animation, so that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you grew up having access to that. I grew up being the weird kid, which was news to me because from where I was perfectly normal. But people called me weird constantly. And it didn't hurt my feelings, it was just confusing. Like, why does everyone keep saying that? But I just was into different things than other people, and from where I was standing, they were the weird ones. They didn't think that puppets and goblins and alien creatures were really cool. That's suspicious to me. Do you think that puppets and goblins are really cool? I found my people, and they're in Guadalajara. Yeah, yes. I loved goblins. I still do. But I was obsessed with this book by Brian Freud. I'm just working with my PowerPoint here. Yeah. I was obsessed with this book by the artist Brian Froud, who drew these goblins, and he designed all his own, and each had its own little character description in the side, and it was my Bible. I was obsessed with this, and I did the same. I would make my own goblins and their little personality traits, and he was such an inspiration to me. And then he actually designed the original characters for the Dark Crystal film in the 80s and the Labyrinth, and he's amazing, basically. But he would be hired again to design the characters for the reboot of the Dark Crystal in 2017, where I would be cast as a lead character designed by him for this reboot, like this person that inspired everything. And I get to be a character designed by them. I'm still not over it. So this is that. And I think it's not, he validated that weirdness for me. And I have a little drawing on my wall that he did for me. And it's like a little Skeksis head, and it says thank you underneath, and it's cute. But actually, in school, I was told that I couldn't be an actor, and then I couldn't be a puppeteer. And they asked me to rewrite my university applications that I had done. And they made me take this quiz to find out what would be a good, real profession for me. So I took this quiz, and it told me that I should be a forensic scientist. Very valuable, important job, but I'm pretty sure you have to be like good at science, which I wasn't. I wasn't good at much in school. I'm really not academically smart, but that's okay, because I'm creatively smart. We all have our things. So I didn't rewrite my university applications. I was determined. I wanted to go to drama school in London, and some of them had puppetry courses, and I really wanted to get on those because there was nothing in Northern Ireland that I could do or had access to. So I sent off the applications, and I got auditions for them, and then I got recalls for them, which is when they like you, so they ask to see you again. And then I didn't get in. I didn't get in anywhere. And then I didn't get good enough grades to go to my backup universities. I'm gonna have to become a forensic scientist. So that was defeat. I actually went into, I don't know if you have the equivalent here, but for us it's called clearing. So you go into clearing, and universities, if they have spaces left after all the qualified people get in, they kind of scoop up some of the rejects. And I got scooped up, and I got to go to a local university in Belfast to do theatre studies, which is in the vein, but it wasn't a practical course, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I had just been told repeatedly that if I wanted to be successful or make it, that I had to leave the country. So staying in the country felt like this huge defeat, and it sucked. But there's no one way to achieve anything. So outside of university, when I was studying, I just hustled. I just pushed, and I wrote to casting directors, and I wrote to agents and anyone who would listen. And I was going to auditions like all the time that I just had gotten myself from pushing for it, because I knew I didn't have any contacts or any help in the industry, so I knew that I had to make it happen by myself. And And I did. Woo! Thank you. Yeah, so I started out doing kind of voiceovers for like indie video games, these really low budget sci-fi things, and then I started getting screen work, and I'm in a Netflix series called Dairy Girls. I love that people know that here. I didn't think people would know that, but that's great. And also, the third series will be here on Netflix on the 7th of October. So you have that to look forward to. I continue to do weird things in the third series. So I do that, and then this is some other credits that I've done. When I was putting the PowerPoint together, I realized 3 of these images, I'm in a hospital bed. I don't know if that's a typecast or like I'm really good at crying. So like if you ever need a crying girl for your feature, I'm here. Just checking what my next slide is. Yes, so then puppetry-wise, this kids' TV company in Belfast that only ever did animation before shot a puppetry show, a kids' puppetry show in Belfast. It was a branch of Sesame Street. They have regional branches, and this was like a Belfast branch they tried one series of. But the excitement that something had come here, and I was just like, I need to work for you. I have to be involved in this in some way, in any way. So I wrote to them, like I did with everyone, and sent them a CV empty of anything puppetry related. But I was like, I will make tea and coffee. I will do whatever. I just need to be around these creatures. And I got an email back that just said, I like her. And then I got a really faffy follow-up email, like, I'm sorry, I was forwarding that on to my colleague. But they didn't have any positions or anything open that I could do. But they were hosting a puppetry workshop. And I applied to that workshop, and I got in. And thank you. The puppeteer hosting that workshop was Victor Yared. He's from the Jim Henson Company in LA. And he was hosting the workshop, and he just scouted me from it. I went to the workshop that day, attended, and then he hired me as his assistant puppeteer. So a lead puppeteer does the main body and performance of the puppet. An assistant will come in and do anything spare. You can have multiple assistants, but he hired me as his assistant, so I went on to do what we would call right-handing for him, kind of always as the right hand. And that was like the next week. So I did the workshop, and then I started working professionally the next week on this show. It's called The Pajanimals. It's animals in pajamas. It's really cute, preschool. But that was an amazing experience for me. And a little bit like being thrown to the wolves because I hadn't had any puppetry experience before that. I learned everything on the job in a really high-pressure environment. But I think that really worked for me. And I think I would advocate for boot camp training that can somehow provide that high pressure, because every job I've done since has been really intense and really high pressure. So I feel like I was birthed into it in the right way. And then I did a number of other shows. That's one of them. That's called That Puppet Game Show. It was like with humans, like celebrities, and then the puppets ran the show, and it was chaos and went terribly. And a few others, and then auditions came around for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. And I got an audition, and then I got a recall, and I was being recalled for characters, to perform characters, but I'd only ever assisted before. And I remember finding that stressful because I wanted them to know how good of an assist I was. I was like, they're not going to see how good I am at right-handing if they're seeing me read for characters. And I figured they wouldn't ever consider me for a character. So it was like, I was upset about it. But then I got cast as Deet. So, thank you. There she is. Oh no, too far, too far. We go too far. There we go. But yeah, this was my starting role. Whenever I went to the recalls, I went to the first audition and I had to fly to London to do it. And then I had to fly back and go back to work. I was working on a different puppet show. And I was in the airport on the way home. And they asked me to go to a recall. And I was like, oh, I can't. I'm leaving the country. But it was fine. I was able to fly back the next day after work. And then when I left, I went to, there was a Forbidden Planet across the street from where I auditioned. And they had these little Funko Pops of the original Dark Crystal films. And there was a little Kira one. And I felt like that was the end of my Dark Crystal journey. Surely, of course it must have been, because I just did not expect this to happen. So I bought this little Kira souvenir to keep as a memento. And now I have a Deet one of the character that I got to do. So that was a really nice full circle for me. I want to share a bit about how we shot the show, but it's very big and there's a lot to it. But I will be able to give you a taste of the techniques used and a glimpse into the puppetry and the mastery behind a production that puts so much dedication into practical effects. So we'll start with the sets. The sets are huge, and nothing is left to the imagination. Every little corner and nook and cranny is completely full and interesting, or it can be puppeteered, it can be moved. For people that don't know, the world that this planet that they live on is called Thra, and everything there lives. Everything. The trees and the rocks. So our art department, for the sets, they made it that even the grass could be puppeteered under the set at certain points. You could pull little pulleys and the grass would go, or you could like move rocks and it looked like they were breathing. So while we were puppeteering our characters, there was always loads of puppeteers then hidden throughout the set that were just like pulling things or moving things just to keep this world alive. And one of my favorite sets was they painted one of them with UV paint, and we shot it completely under UV light. So that's why we have trendy shades on, so that we don't damage our eyes. But that was in grot, underground, because they wanted to create this, with the UV light, this like glowing habitat. And it's really, really magical. I have a little video I'll just show. That's Stone in the Wood. I'm inside a Gelfling house just filming it on my phone because it looked cool. And this backdrop is hand painted, which is how they did it in the original 80s film. The details, sorry for my wonky phone, I was excited. I recorded this because we don't normally shoot like that. We had to keep the floor in because the Skeksis were there, but we needed podling, so on the rare occasion that happens, we use these rolly dollies, but I filmed it because it was out of the ordinary. And then that's me on like a giant crane when the sanctuary tree is pulling Deet up out the top. So yeah, I'll let that play. Yeah, everything was massive, which was really helpful because then nothing was left to your imagination. You as a performer got to step on set, and all that energy that you would normally use pretending, like with a green screen, pretending all this was around you, you didn't need to use that energy, so you got to keep it and put it into other areas of your performance. And it was just a really nice luxury to have that. And then the sets are also, you might have noticed, they're 4 foot off the ground. So they're raised 4 foot off the ground, and that is so that the puppeteers can walk around with the puppets above their heads. And then they also, they're like puzzles, and they're put together, and then this block can come out so the puppeteers can go in, or they can move things apart to make new areas, or just open up channels so that the puppeteers can get through them, like this. Yes. So then before I talk about the puppeteering elements, I want to make you aware that the performance of the characters happens, I'm trying to get to my next slide, there we go. The performance of the characters happens completely live. And by that I mean that the puppeteer lays down the entire performance live. They make the acting decisions, they do the manipulation, they do the voice. The voice is done by the puppeteer with the puppet and recorded on the day, and then later it is redubbed in post-production. So if a different voice actor is voicing your character, they have to completely match up with what you did and the performance that you laid down. So on top of very technical puppeteering, you're also having to deliver very high drama acting performances. So it's just another thing that's going on in a very complicated world already. So because the lines are recorded live, we wear these funky headbands. These headbands are known as Henson headbands. Jim Henson kind of found it way back in the day with the Muppet Show and stuff, that was the best way to attach a mic to a Muppet performer, because there's so much physical movement. The mic attaches to the front, and then it kind of laces and zigzags right to the back, and then it goes down your back. We have 2 mics. One acts as, it records the lines that you're performing, but it also acts as a live feed that goes out to everyone's headsets. Because you're very often underneath the set or in a hole somewhere, if someone can't see you, they can still communicate with you. They still know where all their actors are, how they're doing. And then the second mic, and the director has like a push-to-talk mic back to us that goes into our headsets. So again, when he's far away, he can communicate back with us that way, or else we would just be shouting all the time or not able to communicate at all. And then the second mic, it laces down the same and goes down the back, and it goes into a comms pack. So we actually have a big belt. We have a comms pack that one mic goes into. We have a radio mic that the main mic goes into, and then we have a big battery pack that goes into the puppets. So there's a lot of weight happening around here. But the second mic is used into that comms pack, and that's what you use to communicate with your assistant puppeteers if they're far away from you. More about why they would be far away from you in a moment. But yes, you can use that to communicate with them or just tell them that they're doing a really good job, which I like to do. I'll show you a clip actually. But yeah, to preface, for people that don't know, our main characters in the show are Gelfling and Skeksis. Gelfling good, Skeksis bad. And they're both puppeteered very differently. So I'll talk about Gelfling first, and then we can talk about Skeksis. I have a little video that I took. It's kind of like guerrilla footage, because I was just in a hole on the set and looking at it and thinking, my job's really weird. So I videoed it, and I'll show you that now. It's a very extreme example of puppeteering a Gelfling. Again, that's why I videoed it, because it was out of the ordinary for me. It's normally like the Muppets where we try to keep it waist up, but this is kind of an all hands on deck type of scene.
I will have justice. I will never bow. I will have justice. I will never bow.
Yes, so that very extreme example with everyone, all hands on deck. But that's Alice Deneen. She performs, Brea is her main character. That's her performing as Modrafara. And that is like probably the most, there's probably 5 puppeteers on her at that time, which is the most you would really ever need at any point. Because normally the legs aren't attached, as you can see. So for Gelfling, this is like the most standard hand and rod style puppetry that there is. This is like the Muppet Show, where the performer's dominant hand goes up inside the head, and then their subdominant hand controls the arm rod. And then that becomes the puppet's dominant hand. So because most people are right-handed, most puppets are left-handed, which is just a fun fact, I think. If you're watching the show or if you're re-watching something like the original Muppet Show, most puppets are left-handed. Everyone's left-handed. You can also perform both arm rods, but it can be a little bit restricting. So that's just, yeah, I'll just let that play while I speak, because it helps the visual, I think. But yeah, you can do both arm rods. It's restrictive. So that's where your assistant puppeteer comes in, and they will come and they will take that spare arm rod and then work with you and move with you. And we don't really have rehearsals on Dark Crystal, like, ever, or on any show I seem to do. So they really have to tune in with you and your performance. When you're assisting, like, you can't be doing your own thing, and it's not about you, it's about what the lead performer is doing and joining together in that. Assistants can also perform both arm rods. Sometimes that's a really useful tool to have. I'll just let you watch this bedlam of puppets run through a corridor for a second. There you can see, like, the assistants kind of are in behind them all, because that's the only place they can fit in that shot. And there's 5 of us making Rian come to life there. It's a real group thing. And then they also have animatronics in their heads. So that's what the battery pack's for. It goes up into the head. They have a blink mechanism. They have brows. They have ears that move. And they have eye tracking, so they can look left, right, up, down, and around. And then that's a third puppeteer that sits way offset. Don't normally even see them, but they sit offset, and you communicate through your headset and your mics. And it's like the same controller you would use for like a drone, like it's one of those controllers, and that works the animatronics and the RC. So that's another person invited into that performance and doing it with you. And I just think it's gorgeous that multiple people can come together in this way and work together to make one thing come alive. And then also with the Gelfling, you sadly can't see it in that shot, but because the Gelfling are all like similar height, right? But puppeteers aren't. Like, I'm pretty short compared to most of our puppeteers are like 6 foot plus. And I'm 5'5". So if we just hold our Gelflings up together, like Deet would be down here and they would be up there. So shorter performers like myself, we have to wear platform shoes to bring us up. So when I'm performing Deet, I have 5-inch platform shoes that I have to wear. I think Neil Sterenberg had like 2 inches and some, but I think I had the most. And then if your character is on a chair or in a bed or sitting on a log, you have to get inside it. So this is the bed, and I'm just shoved up inside the bed. And they could have made this hole bigger, I swear. So you can see the wood just on either side of my face. I found that piece of foam and I taped it to that corner to protect myself. But yeah, things like this, like puppeteers have to get very used to it. You have to like get into the furniture. Anytime you see a character just sitting on a sofa or a chair or something, someone's having a bad day. And also, I'll share a little story. So my assistant has to get in there with me, not with her head. She doesn't have to squeeze her head up in there. She's like down on the ground doing stuff. She took that photo, so that's her angle of me. But I was really late for work that day. It was really snowy, and they were worried that the train, because I would get the train, they were worried that the train wouldn't come, so they sent me a car, but the car didn't come. So then I like ran and got a train, but I was late and I missed breakfast. And this scene was the first scene up of that day, and they already had everything set up, so I just had to arrive in work, run in, get inside this hole, and then a lovely AD was like, "Do you want something to eat?" And I was like, "Yes, anything." And she brought me this like breakfast bap. It was like a bap with, I think it was like egg, and it was filled with ketchup. And my puppet was up inside Deet, and I had my spare hand, and I lifted it up, and I dropped it. The whole thing, it was just ketchup everywhere. And then my assistant climbs into the hole, and she's like, "What's that smell?" I was like, "I'm so sorry." And then she's stuck in there with me, and everything smells like ketchup for the day. And I felt really bad about it. That's also kind of an important thing. You have to be so close to people all the time, and like sometimes, like a lot of times, your head, when you're assisting, your head is physically in the armpit of someone else. So like, just general good hygiene is good. Or if you have to get into a hole or a creature with someone after lunch, just bring a little toothbrush or a mint, freshen up, give it, and yeah, it's just hygiene, super important. But that's my lasting memory from the ketchup hole. And then, so while we're performing, we need to see what's happening. That's the magic trick with puppetry. That's it. So we have these monitors that are all lined along the floor, and they show us exactly what the camera is seeing so that we can play exactly to camera. We had enough monitors in this spot so that we have, it's a 2-camera shoot, like multicam shoot. So there's 2 cameras on us at all times. So you have to play and make the magic tricks work on 2 cameras at all times, which is really hard. Sometimes it just doesn't work. But yeah, we line them up on the bottom like this. Just before you run a scene, you'll go down to the set and there's someone from the monitor team and you do like a recce and you walk through what you know your character will be doing. So if my character is like coming in, walking over here, maybe turning around to talk to someone over here, then you mark through, I know I can have a monitor there and I can keep it going. I'll probably lose sight of it about here. So then I need them to put another one there and we can get to here. And then I'm turning, and now I need another one back here. And then when I turn back around, I need something here. Or someone could like sit and rotate that monitor. But it's really important that we see what's happening. That's the trick. So if you're ever making a puppet show for screen, please put enough money in the budget for monitors. It's really important, and I've done some jobs where we haven't had that, so just please include that. Thank you. So let's look at how to puppeteer a Skeksis. So I have another little piece of gorilla footage for y'all, and yeah, we'll start with that.
We were left with 2 bags trapped within separate cells. All we want now is to return to our true form.
Where to? Yeah, let me stick.
We were left with 2 bags trapped within separate cells. All we
Yeah,
want
so
now
that
is to
they completely
return to our
disappear,
true
as you can
form.
see. There's no puppeteers.
Where to?
We were left with
Let's
2
show,
bags.
yeah. So that's Warwick Brownlow Pike. He does the Chamberlain, and unlike the Gelfling, where you're essentially outside of your puppet with just your arm inside it, for Skeksis, your whole body is inside there. It's the same where your dominant hand goes up in and performs the lip sync, and then your subdominant arm. They have like, it's like a little handle, and then the arm stretches out from there. And then your assistant puppeteer gets in there beside you and reaches round. Do we have someone tall? Come here. Come up. Stairs, safety. So you're gonna stand here.
Here?
Yeah, are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-hander.
So you're in the Skeksis, and this arm's doing the hand, and then I'm the assistant, so I climb in, and I'm like this. And this is how we do it. So you're normally put your hand around the back, and then you move together like a dance. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, thank you for that. And then they also have animatronic heads. So they have a blink mech, they have eye tracking and eyebrows, and right at the end of their beak, there's like a little, I don't know what to call it, like a little snarl. It can rotate, basically, the tip of the beak. Because it's a beak, it's the lip sync. In terms of vowels and stuff, it can be hard to articulate, so it gives a little extra something for kind of oohs and ah sounds. And then, oh, I have a little video of me clambering inside with Warwick, actually. That was just from the documentary. In the armpit. and then you're covered up and you disappear. And then they use, if I can get onto it, they have these tiny monitors inside the bellies because they can't see the ones that we have on the floor outside. And then because it's a multicam shoot, they're split into 4, so the image gets even smaller for them. But this is Neil Sterenberg. He decorated the inside of his Skeksis with fairy lights. And that's what I was taking a video of. I was like, that's so cute. But yeah, when you're performing to 2 cameras at once, I don't really have any advice for that, just other than to try your best. Because sometimes it's just not going to work, and physically there is no way of cheating depending on what angles they're coming at you at. There's just no way to look good on both. But yeah, we do our best. So let's move on to just talking about that movement of puppetry. For me, the starting point of moving a character comes from character development, and because I feel like that informs every single other thing about them and their posture and their focus. Maybe it's because I come from an acting background. There are a lot of puppeteers that come from it technically, and they have like technical rules of leaning to the left is curious and leaning to the right is inquisitive, and different rules like this. But and that's totally valid in a great way. Just for me, my brain works differently, and that wasn't a way that worked for me. And I find it more feeling out the character. So taking a minute, finding out who they are, so then what motivates them. Like with Deet, for example, she is like gentle and curious, and she comes from an underground habitat, so her eyesight is really bad. And that was a nice gift given to me in terms of where to start the physical movement of this character, because she's not led by her eyesight, as all my other characters have been previously. If you think about it for a second with how you would look around a room using your eyes to focus, and then the difference of how you would listen around the room. For me, like, then my gaze is now automatically lower, and it just completely changes the focus of your eye line because you're not relying on it. So that was a nice little gift I was given with Deet, and being able to start the movement of that character with her focus, with her hearing, this dominant sense of her hearing. So then we start always moving the head to listen and moving those ears. And for most of the show, she's in an unfamiliar environment. So she's really assessing all the time, and her head is moving all the time. When she goes back into the caves of Grot later in the show, maybe it's really subtle, but I did do that sort of movement in the same way, because I was like, she's comfortable and she knows this place. She's not having to assess everything, but something to look out for. So I did that, and then she's also so curious and so open with that curiosity. So then you get to incorporate that into a movement, which for me is sort of like head tilting and always looking and trying to find out everything. And then she's also really gentle, so there's a softness to her and how she moves. And then you kind of start getting this little puppet, and her head is always moving, and she's soft and intrigued. And then that's suddenly you have the foundation of your character. And then you get to build on top from that. If we look then at Naya, who I also performed, she is a warrior. She's strong and brave and fierce. And she's also constantly assessing her surroundings. But unlike Deet, she's really grounded in it. She's really centered, and her focus is more inward, and with that sort of warrior trait of not giving too much away and kind of holding in, and I guess not alerting predators to your presence. So there's a great stillness that I wanted to lean into for Naya and her foundations of movement. And then you get the contrast of with Deet looking around like, ooh, ah. And then Naya is, when she's looking, it's really calculated and really still. And then, again, then you get to work from that base. I find it's almost better to find what the smallest movements is that they do. What's their neutral? What's their stillest thing? Because when we're doing big action things, there's a lot of stuff you can hide behind. Like when someone's just swinging a sword or doing all this movement, you can hide behind all the bells and whistles. But if a character's just walking slowly from A to B, there's nothing to hide behind. So I think I would advise putting your foundations in those moments of stillness. And for the Gelfling, we actually spent more time than anything else on finding out how they were to walk. We didn't have a lot of prep time. We had 2 weeks for an 11-month shoot. But for 2 of those prep days, we just spent them with the puppets, with monitors set up, and we just walked back and forth, in and out of shot, back and forth. And there was just standing at the side, watching each other do it and going, no, no, no. And we just weren't getting it. And then a producer would come down and be like, yeah, no. And we spent so long because normally with that Muppet style puppetry, the walk is it's like really bouncy, and you're like, I'm Kermit the Frog. But then that doesn't work with this Gelfling aesthetic. And because we had this amazing gift of the original film and how they moved, and there was so much stillness. The whole film's like a moving painting, and how to recreate that, but with our Gelflings who are a little bit more capable in what they can do, puppetry-wise. In the end, we did find that using your own human footsteps generally worked. Sometimes you'd have to change it up for certain setups with camera cheats, but your own human steps, but like making them a little bit smaller, and it's a little bit more, there's like a natural ebb that happens, and that's the Gelfling walk. And I think that's an important thing where, that's us figuring it out and getting it wrong, like all the time. So I would say, as another piece of advice, don't be afraid to feel. Feel fearlessly and often. I remember this really significant moment, and we were filming this bar brawl with Hup and Deet. And originally in the shot, in the sequence, Deet fell to the side, she got pushed, and then she just stayed there, while the fight happened. And I was like, no. So I went to the director and I was like, Deet is not a damsel. I don't want her just to lie there while her friend's getting beat up. And that happens to our female characters so much. We don't get involved. So he was really good, Louis Leterrier, and he agreed with me, and he then was like, okay, she can go in and stomp on someone's foot. And I was like, okay, great. I'm in the fight now. I fought my corner, But this is all happening really fast, and the cameras are rolling, and we don't have rehearsal time, and I don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to puppeteer her standing on someone else's foot, and we're shooting the shot from here up, and I don't have time to figure it out either, but I made this whole dramatic point about it, so I have to do it now. So then, in that moment, they're just about to call action. I turned, Warwick Brownlow Pike was beside me, one of our lead puppeteers, Chamberlain, you have seen, and he's got like 15 more years experience than me. So I was like, how do I make it look like she stood on his foot? And he looked at me and he laughed. And he goes, I don't know. Because nobody knows. This has never been done before. And that was this huge moment of realization for me of when you're working with puppets, you're very often doing things that haven't been done before. So you just have to be open to failing at it and getting it wrong, because the only other option is to go home. And that's not an option. We stick it out and we do it. And then it could maybe go right. So that's good. I think if you can get comfortable with the idea of getting it wrong, then there's a fearlessness that gets to come with that, and playfulness that you get to enjoy. And then in contrast to that, where I was totally freaking out, oh, and by the way, I didn't get it. I didn't get it in the end. It does not look like she stood on his foot. It kind of looks like she did this. And that shot is in the finished show. Like, my mistakes are preserved in this Emmy award-winning show. So full transparency, like, just get it wrong, and you'll find eventually what's right. But get comfortable in that and find that fearlessness. And there was another setup that we did where they're shooting, the camera's shooting directly up, and they have this plexiglass over the camera, and they have this sugar glass vial that's for smashing. And I've got this Skeksis foot, and they want me to slam the Skeksis foot in and smash the vial, and it has to land perfectly in the middle of the frame. And then props come to me, and they go, we've only got one. And I go, okay. And then they're like, this is the only one. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, you have to get it right first time. I'm like, okay. And I just found that I'm gonna have to do it either way. I can do it really stressed, or I could do it calmly. And there's a lot of pressure, money pressure on the line in those moments. And it's huge, but after it peaks, there's a little calmness, because that's it, you're in it. Your only way out is trying it. So be calm and enjoy it. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this thing that's impossible, and I'm gonna do it. And it's not bravado, it's not even confidence. I'm there like, well, this will probably go wrong. But it has a chance of going right. So do it and try it. And actually, I got it first time. Thank you. Oh no. Yeah, I want to finish, well, my last piece of puppetry advice would be trusting the audience. Have faith in the viewer's imagination. A lot of people, when they pick up a puppet, they instinctively start moving it really fast and really big to give life to it. And I totally get that. It makes sense as an instinct, but there's power in stillness. And especially for shows like Dark Crystal or creature work like Star Wars, Jurassic World, it's more reflective of living things and that behavior. So draw them in. Let them use their imagination to project onto the puppet. There's a special, I feel like with puppetry, there's a special relationship there. It's decided by the viewer. The message is on the audience. It's subjective, like art. It's an inanimate object, and they know it's an inanimate object. This gelfling, this puppet, isn't feeling anything. It's foam latex with a human arm inside, and yet they've decided, or you've decided, that it's sad, or it's stressed, or it's content, just because I maybe moved my arm in a certain way. And I'm not saying that to discredit the skill of puppeteers, not at all, but just that I feel a huge part of the relationship of the creation and the life of these creatures is the control that the audience has and what they project on to these creatures. We're a part of it. Humans tell us what they're feeling, but the audience tells puppets what they're feeling. And I think that that's the magic. That's the thing that sets this apart from other art forms. And there's a real simplicity to that connection and that relationship. I have one more thing to show you. It's a little video. It's not like really cool and professional, but for the second block of filming, so we filmed for 11 months, for the second half of that, I decided to start like a little project where I filmed a second of footage every day for when we were filming and put it together. I mean, like the others, it's real guerrilla style, and it's just on my phone. And some of it's not even puppetry related, it's just us messing around, because that's what we did. But I think it's a very accurate POV of me and my time on the show. So I will play that for you now. And no one has seen this also.
See the disco.
You have to come here. There you go, yeah, there you go.
Beep, boop, beep.
How long?
The bitches.
So angry.
The girls can be in.
Rainbow.
Yeah, we.
Anything happen again?
Apart from acting skills, what kind of skills do you recommend a puppeteer to build?
I think kind of stamina is quite important, like physical stamina. The puppets are really, really heavy. So then I think, not in a way that I would recommend like a gym membership or anything, because I feel like the job is the gym membership. So like in your downtime, chill. But yeah, things that you could do to build up your stamina, I think is important. Hi.
Hi. Hi, my name is Aranza. And I have two questions, okay? The first one is you mentioned that the face is like an animatronic. So
Yeah.
is there a person outside the stage?
Yes.
Controlling everything?
Yes, so they sit outside the set, and we are in the set with the puppets, and it's done via radio controls. So they sit with a monitor and a controller, and they control the blinking and the tracking of the eyes. So you had two questions.
Yes. The other is, I don't know if you mentioned it, but how did you tell your parents that I want to be a puppeteer, or how was it, and how did they take it?
How did I tell my parents?
Yeah.
Ooh. I did not tell them. Yeah, I think I had like one awkward conversation with my dad about it, and he was like, "That's not going to support you." So he was maybe on the camp that wanted me to be a forensic scientist. But here I am, and he loves the Muppet Show, and he loves that world. He's probably came from compassion and just wanting me to be able to support myself, but I do, so it's good. Yeah.
Will there be any possibility for there to be a second season of The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance? Because, well, the first season ends with such a huge cliffhanger, so we would like to know what happens next. But is there any possibility or no?
Well, exclusive right here. I don't know. I wish I did. Unfortunately, I don't know, or haven't seen anything to confirm that would be happening. I wish it would. I really want to know what happens. I need to know what happens to Deet and this whole darkening thing. And, yeah, I want it to happen as much as all of you.
Hi, Vicky. I have a question regarding the coordination for like all the performance and at the same time the performance as an actress and also as the puppeteer. Are there moments where I know that you mentioned it is simultaneously?
Yeah.
You perform and you do all the acting. Are there moments where you have to dub the scenes because it is like a lot of things happening, like an action scene or something like that? Or every scene where characters speak, it is on the moment?
Every scene is on the moment. The puppets are the actors in that sense in the show, and everything's just done live in the moment. Oh, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
I have this question. How did you organize your mind? For all this time, you didn't get what you wanted. To not to keep yourself from discouraging.
That's a really good question, and I think I don't want that struggle to ever be interpreted as like people didn't believe in me and that gave me the drive. They don't get any credit. I had the drive myself. So I think it's something that's in you, and if it's what you want, then find the way to do that. I think through when I was writing to casting directors and agencies and stuff, and I think the act of doing that made me feel like at least I'm trying. At least I'm pushing for it, and that was able to work as motivation in that way. obviously it ebbs and flows, and sometimes it's really hard, and you're like, why am I doing this? Nothing's working. But I think to just, if you're always trying, then you're succeeding in a way, because you're doing it, you're pushing for it. So don't give up.
Hi, Becky.
Hey, friend.
Hi, how are you? I have a doubt. I heard that after they did some digital enhancing on the faces.
Yeah.
Do you like it? Do you think that it works, or you prefer that it would be stayed like it was originally?
That's a really good question. I liked it. I think there were some things. I'm gonna be really candid here. So, oh no, maybe I can't say what I don't like. Like I love the little lip curls. Like if someone was smiling, we can't physically, without having mechs in the faces, get that little curl in the lips. So there was a lot of really subtle things like that that were really lovely. And I think that marriage between practical puppetry and that augmentation can do really gorgeous things, and I think that's really great. Sometimes it was maybe a little bit much for me and my love of practical, like some of the skexy tongues when they go crazy, just because for me it's so outside of the world of the language that's been set. But it's also really cool. So I think it's each to their own. But I think there's a really great relationship that can happen with the augmentation of practical puppetry.
Hi. It's not really a question. I was just wondering, do you ever get like a cramp on your hand, and how do you deal with that? And also, did you get to keep something from your puppet or the set or something?
Cool. Yeah, so turns out when you have your hand in the air, the blood leaves it after 9 minutes. But we're filming scenes like all day for like 10 hours. So yeah, that was a big thing. Or like some of the puppets are very tight on your fingers and you lose circulation, or there's like cutting or rubbing. But I mean, there's not really a fix for that. It's just like something that comes with the job that you have to deal with. Sometimes you can, like if something's rubbing on the inside of your puppet, you can take it to the workshop and they'll maybe coat it with a little chamois leather or something, and that helps. And what was the second question? Oh, the memento. Yes. So the puppets are really expensive. Everything's really expensive. So I didn't take anything like that, but I did take, in the Caves of Grot, that's where Deep, my main character's from, I took like a bunch of rocks and like some moss and a little bit of plant, and I made a little terrarium that looks like it's from her hometown, and it was the set that was shot under UV light, so it also glows. So.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, for the amount of like process and stuff, like high and I don't know, production that this was, do you see other projects working on in the future that is like high production?
I really hope so. I think it's a little disheartening not having got that second season greenlit, but I feel like we have proven that this can work and this can happen. I mean, the show got an Emmy. It outperformed itself. So hopefully other production houses and the powers that be will see that and see that we can do these huge, large-scale puppetry shows. I would love to see more of them and more creatures and aliens and stuff. Here's hoping.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to say thank you because I have a small studio here in Guadalajara. We are working with Muppets, with puppets all the time. We also work with a company, a theater company that makes puppets, and we build all the scenarios with virtual production. And we're starting a few projects with for a series and things like that.
Amazing.
And now we are like struggling a little bit, but budgets and everything.
Yes.
And I see all the things you share with us, and it's very inspirational for us because we are making the things right, You are just confirming that. All the monitor stuff you were talking about, we got a lot of struggle with that. I understand perfectly what you were saying.
Yeah.
And all the stuff about the hands and everything with the actors.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much for the inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Becky, the time has finished up, but thank you so much for this amazing talk. We love your work. We loved it. You did an amazing job. Give a big applause for Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And vamos a reanudar nuestras actividades a las 4:30, así que aquí los esperamos.